Four-game losing streak, unfortunately, for the football team. How difficult has it been to watch this play out over the last 5 weeks?
It's hard, just because you just know everything else that they've been going through with, the lack of players due to either, injuries or COVID or close contacts or whatever. The uncertainty week to week. Are we going to play? Are we not going to play? And then, obviously Iowa State wasn't even close, but then you go into a Baylor team, have a chance to win it. And it just you hurt for these kids, right? I mean, because they're giving it their all and doing everything they can to win football games with, not a full slate of players available, and they're, working hard, and they're going out. As you know, we're down offensive linemen and guys playing guards that hadn't played guard all year long, and a couple of linebackers had to play pretty much the entire game, and so when you get that close, you just really hurt for them because you just know how hard they're working.
Well, on the COVID front, I mean, you bring it up. K-State dealing with a lot there and had to deal with it at the 11th hour with the way that it came down last week. Coach Kleiman, I thought it was interesting, said today on the Big 12 teleconference that there were a couple of opportunities this year where they maybe could have pushed the envelope toward getting a postponement. Is that your understanding, that there were some opportunities to have done that this year and perhaps other schools may have decided to do that?
Well, I mean, our Big 12 rule this year is pretty clear, and I don't know, I never really paid enough close attention to it, but I think there was one time when we were really low on offensive linemen. We were down to the minimum of 8, with a couple of them being walk-ons, but yet I don't think we ever got below our 53 scholarship players at any point in time. So I think we were close. I don't know that, if he would have said, Gene, I'm really nervous about playing this game, we got to ask for, kind of an exception to the rule, that it would have been granted. But the rule's pretty specific. You have to have, if you have 8 offensive linemen, whether they're scholarship or not, you play. If you have 4 interior D linemen, you play. If you have a quarterback, you play. You can't have a quarterback and a backup. If you just got one quarterback, you still play the game. So, I don't know. Maybe we were closer than I thought, but we didn't. And you go against an Iowa State team that was pretty much at full strength, and I think a Baylor team was close to being full strength in terms of the numbers of at least starters and backups, right? And then that's hard. So hopefully we're a little closer to full strength for Saturday.
Gene Taylor is talking with me here on Wildcat Insider. I think one thing it's difficult for me, I think perhaps even more difficult for fans, is to balance, okay, how do I view this? The games all look in general the same, and my emotional reaction is the same as it typically is, but the circumstances obviously are not because of everything we have already outlined here. I guess, how do you balance how you judge where the football program is at and where it may be going with COVID and the other circumstances, and how you would typically be viewing the results as they would be unfolding right now?
Well, I'll give you a quick – Kenny Lanou did a great job and kind of helped me understand this. We could have, should have beaten Oklahoma State with a couple of mistakes, and we probably had a chance to beat Baylor – again, with depleted numbers, true freshman quarterback. And if we win those games, and we were, an eyelash away from winning them with a couple of different plays, we're playing for a chance to play in the Big 12 championship this Saturday against Texas. If we beat Texas, because we have the tiebreaker over OSU, the tiebreaker over OU. And we'd be, having a chance. So, yeah, or you're frustrated because you're not winning, but I think when you take into consideration what the fans don't see is what it's like during the week to prepare for a home game when you don't know who's going to be out there, and you're taking receivers and turning them into defensive backs, and you're taking young players that you didn't ever anticipate to play that are playing in games, and the changes that you have to make in preparation for that, on a daily basis, as you're, trying to prepare to beat a team. And, they're not excuses, they're reality. And then you just have to look across the country what's happening with some of these programs. At Penn State's not had a win. Iowa started off with 3 losses or 2 losses, and then now they've won 3 in a row. And so I don't want to call it a throwaway year because you still have to improve, and you're looking at players and that are young and new players that are part of the program for the first time stepping in. Good news is they're getting experience, but I think when and it's hard for a fan. I get it. We didn't beat Baylor. Baylor was 1-5. Oh my goodness, the world's coming to an end. Well, Charlie's a really good player, and we had guys out there that played 80. They were tired in the second half because they never came off the field. So, again, not excuses. That's just the reality in which we're facing this year. So, I think you have to look at it in a broader spectrum than just, we lost to Baylor and Iowa State, beat us 45-0. That was a bad loss. I get it, but they're a pretty good team, and that was one that were probably closest to possibly postponing. Everybody worried about it, right? And yet we went in there anyway and played with some players that probably typically wouldn't play for us. So again, I appreciate coaches' efforts and the players' efforts, and there are some things that are really good. And if you go back to when after the Arkansas State game, we were playing with kind of a full deck for a while. And we won some games. And then towards the end here, we haven't had that full deck. So I think people just have to take this year and go, okay, take a deep breath. Let's get back to hopefully normal next year when we have spring ball and we have folks back, and we'll see where we are.
Well, I know we've talked about this some, but the other thing fans will point out is the transfers and the attrition that's occurred in the program. When you combine that with just the results this year, is there anything that has shaken your confidence at all just in the direction of the football program this year that's happened?
No, not at all. And I would probably tell you that, I'm almost a little more confident just because of the way they're handling this and how close they have been with some really challenging situations, that when we do have, and you're always going to have injuries, don't get me wrong, and key players, but you're not going to have multiple folks out due to, hopefully not next year. Hopefully the vaccine is going to help and we don't have the COVID-related issues next year. But, all the things that you need, a full spring ball and a full fall camp and, a really good chance to evaluate. I think how coaches handle this and how the players have their resolve and they haven't quit and they've come out and, work pretty hard, very hard every week. I'm optimistic, and there are some players out there that are going to be pretty good for us that are young.
Well, Texas is coming up on Saturday, and Gene Taylor talking with me here. If K-State wins, obviously you're a 500 team, but this year I don't know that much of that really matters when it comes to bowl games because the typical eligibility requirements are not there. What are you hearing or expecting right now as far as what the bowl possibilities could be, and does it hinge at all on a win or a loss on Saturday?
Well, I think, like you said, the bowl partners, whether it's our bowl partners or other conferences, they're really, they're looking at it as postseason, but it's really just another game, and I think many are going to treat that way, where you fly in, play the game, fly home. We may not be able to play a typical scheduled partner. Like if we say the Arizona Bowl, I don't know what it's called anymore, but that's normally a Big Ten opponent. Well, there may not be enough Big Ten opponents. That may be filled with another Power 5 conference or a non-Power 5. And you're right, it's probably likely going to be a team that's maybe not even 500. And so, right now we're 7th. If we lose, we'll probably finish 7th. If we win, we can finish as high as 5th in the conference. And then you just figure out the selection process. We all feel pretty good that the winner of the Big 12 conference championship game's not going to be in the Final Four. I mean, maybe an outside shot, but a long shot. But they're probably going to be in another New Year's Six Bowl, so that opens up a slot. And so you do the math, all of a sudden, you need 7 teams to fill your bowl slots. Now you have 6 available because the champion is going somewhere. The runner-up's probably going to go to the Alamo Bowl or maybe the Orlando Bowl. So, a lot of us people have us slotted into the Arizona spot, but we'll see. I mean, it's just who knows at this point.
Gene Taylor is talking with me here on Wildcat Insider. For the game on Saturday, I know you guys had announced indoor games at Bramlage through the end of the month of November at least would have no fans. Good to go with having fans still as per usual, as normal for the game on Saturday?
We're hoping to. I talked to the president today, kind of gave him, our processes and our numbers, and, it's at 15%. I think in his mind it was 25%, which indoors was the number he was not as comfortable with, but the county asked us, and we are going to move forward with it 15%. But we still are going to chat. He's going to chat tonight with who we have a group on campus that kind of handles how we've been making decisions related to COVID and events and whatnot. And so he's more comfortable with 15% and how we are approaching the setup in Bramlage. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to announce tomorrow or the next day that we are going to have fans. But if not, we may have to continue for a few more games until we see where we are in the county. But I think our county folks are comfortable with our plan and have been, and so we'll have a few more conversations before we can announce something formally.
What were your thoughts on getting a chance to see Bruce Weber's team for the first couple of times last week?
They're young. I mean, there's a lot of new faces out there. I had to keep a roster in front of me, and I saw some good things, and I saw some things out there that you got a team that's just kind of trying to figure their way through how to play with one another and lineups, and then you face a couple of pretty good teams. I think Drake's going to be a pretty good Missouri Valley team, and I don't know much about the Pac-12 in Colorado, but they're obviously pretty good teams. So I think we're going to probably win games we shouldn't win, and probably lose games that we shouldn't, just because we're youth and the newness of folks. But that's why we're playing these games. We got to continue to get better, and there's I think some pretty good talent out on the floor.
The schedule, I'm sure, will continue to be in some ways a moving target as we move through the rest of basketball season, but you guys did find out the game on December 11th against Butler is now at least going to be suspended, maybe not canceled, but are you guys working on finding a replacement game for December 11th then at this point in time?
Yeah, Coach is talking about trying to find somebody, hopefully a home game, if we can. But you're right, it's going to be, if you think football is a bumpy road, basketball is really going to be a bumpy ride. And you've seen a ton of cancellations already. Butler had one positive on their team, and they shut it down for 2 weeks for everybody. So, that continues to happen across the country every time somebody gets COVID. Well, it's going to be interesting. So, I think Bruce wants to fill that spot, and if we can find a team that's out there that's needing the game, and I'm sure there will be, we'll do our best to fill that.